The Empire's patrol ships moved through the endless dark, their sensors scanning the void as they had done countless times before. But on this night, something different happened. Something that made every alien officer freeze at their stations. A ripple in space appeared, where no ship should be, no beacon, no star. Just a silent tear that glowed like a wound in reality. Alarms screamed across the fleet, and the admirals shouted for battle positions. Their voices shaking as the strange energy readings grew stronger. The tear widened, burning with colors no one could name, and then it came. A shape pushing through the rip like a beast stepping from the shadows. A warship, massive black steel plates shimmering as if made from starlight itself. The hull bore no alien markings, no Empire crest. Only one symbol burned into its surface, Earth's flag. Humanity's forgotten sign. The aliens stared at their screens. Jaws open, minds blank. How could humans do this? Last reports said Earth had nothing but small defense ships. No fleet, no power, but this vessel was a monster, larger than any known battleship, its engines pulsing like the heart of a star, its surface covered in weapons that hummed with silent promise. The patrol fleet commander tried to speak, but only whispered. "Impossible, humans cannot build this." His officers looked at him in fear, and in their silence the warship drifted forward, slow and deliberate, like it knew every eye was on it. Like it wanted them to watch. No signals came from the human ship. No hail, no warning. It moved without a word. Shields glowing faint blue as alien scanners tried to pierce them and failed. Every reading showed numbers that made no sense. Power beyond scale. Weapons that drained energy like black holes. Even the void itself seemed to bend around the ship. Whispers spread through the alien crews. Old legends of humans being death worlders. Beings who survived where no one else could. Rumors told in low voices about their brutality in war. And now, as the warship stood before them, those rumors no longer felt like stories. They felt like truth. The Empire's high command was alerted. Their voices filled the channel with panic. "Hold positions, do not engage. Wait for orders." But the patrol ships shook as the warship's lights flickered to life. Glowing like the eyes of a predator, weapons bays opened with a slow hiss, each cannon longer than an alien cruiser, missiles with unknown designs sliding into place. The patrol commander screamed, "It's arming! Prepare to fire!" Yet even as the order spread, no one could look away from the massive vessel that now aimed its guns at them across the alien worlds. News spread like wildfire. Live feeds showed the warship drifting through the void. Silent, terrifying, unstoppable. The alien council was summoned, great halls filled with leaders, their faces pale as they watched the feed. Some claimed it was a trick, a hologram. But the sensor data from every fleet told the same truth. The human warship was real, and it was waiting. The council chamber echoed with arguments, shouts of fear, threats of war. But all fell silent when the warship suddenly shifted course, engines blazing brighter, cutting through the void like a blade inside the patrol fleet. Soldiers pressed their faces to viewports, their hearts pounding as the warship's shadow fell over them. The size was unreal. Their largest dreadnought looked like a toy beside it. Some whispered prayers, others cursed, but no one fired. Fear froze them. The silence was louder than any battle. The human warship drifted closer, its cannons humming, and then, for the first time, a sound came across the comms, a deep, heavy static that shook the air, and a single voice spoke in a language most had forgotten. Yet every word cut clear. "We have returned." The patrol fleet broke into chaos, officers shouting, commanders demanding translations. But every alien who heard it knew the meaning. Humans had not been destroyed, not been silent. They had been building, waiting, and now they were here. The empire that once laughed at Earth now stared into the face of something greater. The council members watching on their screens leaned forward, their faces drained of blood. One elder whispered the thought burning in every mind. If one ship can do this, how many more wait behind it? The warship stopped suddenly, weapons locking onto the patrol fleet. Targeting systems flashing like the glare of death itself, alien ships scrambled into position. Shields raised, fighters deployed, but deep down, every soldier knew it was useless. No scan could measure the strength of the human vessel. It was a leviathan, a predator among prey. And still it remained silent, like a beast deciding whether to strike. The void grew darker, engines on the warship pulsing stronger. Alien crews held their breath, some trembling, some readying weapons, but none sure what would come. The galaxy itself seemed to pause, waiting for the first blow. The council begged the patrol commander not to fire first, but fear is stronger than reason. And in that endless silence, one alien officer's hand moved, his voice breaking as he shouted, "Fire!" The patrol fleet unleashed everything. Plasma cannons blazing, torpedoes streaking, beams cutting through the dark. The void exploded in fire, but as the smoke cleared, the human warship still floated there, untouched, shields glowing brighter, and then its cannons turned, power rising to a level no alien mind could comprehend. Every sensor screamed warnings, every crew member froze in horror. And the final image before the part ends is the warship's guns locking onto the alien commander's flagship. Energy building with a roar that shook the void itself. The human warship prepares to fire, and the galaxy holds its breath. The council chamber was filled with voices that cracked under fear. Alien leaders of dozens of worlds shouted over one another, their eyes locked on the giant screen, showing the human warship floating in the void. The recording looped again and again, showing how the alien fleet had fired with everything they had, how the void had lit with explosions, how the cannons had struck with fury. And yet the human vessel had not even shifted, its shields glowing brighter as if feeding on the storm. The alien commander's flagship still sat in the path of the human guns, and the entire galaxy held its breath. Councillors banged their fists on tables, demanding an explanation. Others whispered old legends about Deathworlders, about humans who never fought fair wars, about the wars long ago that had ended in fire and silence. But the younger ones laughed nervously, claiming it was impossible, claiming Earth was weak, claiming this ship was only a bluff. Yet their laughter died as the next feed came in. The human ship had transmitted one message, simple, terrifying, a single voice saying, "This is only the beginning." Gasps filled the chamber. Some tried to dismiss it as a trick, but no one could explain the scans. No one could explain the way every system screamed warnings when the human guns charged. The Empire's admirals stood in silence, their faces pale. They knew war when they saw it, and this was war. The High Speaker of the Council demanded calm, but his voice shook as he asked, "How did humans build such a vessel? We have watched Earth, we have controlled their borders. They had no fleets, no allies, no resources." But even as he asked, the answer spread among the chambers. Earth had gone silent for years. They had not begged for trade, they had not sent envoys. They had been hidden, building in secret. And now their work stood before them, across the galaxy. News channels played the footage. Aliens in crowded markets stared at the screens with wide eyes. Soldiers whispered in mess halls. Children asked questions their parents could not answer. Fear spread faster than fire. Because if one warship existed, more could follow. The Empire's propaganda machine tried to claim victory, saying the human ship had fled, saying the fleet was unharmed, but the truth was clear. The fleet sat frozen, waiting for death. And the humans had not even fired yet. That silence was worse than destruction. It meant choice, it meant power, and it meant humans were not just back. They were in control, back in the void. The patrol fleet sent desperate signals to the Council, asking if they should retreat or fight. Their commanders begged for orders, but the Council argued too long. Some demanded the fleet attack again. Others screamed for surrender. The chamber turned into chaos, leaders accusing one another. But then, as silence fell, the feed changed again. New footage from the fleet showed the human warship moving, slow, steady, its massive guns tracking each alien vessel one by one. As if memorizing targets, the councillors leaned forward, their faces pale, and one whispered what they all feared. "They are hunting us," the Council's emergency admiral, A being with scales of silver and eyes like black glass stood and roared for silence. "Oh, we will not be ruled by fear if humans wish war. Then war they shall have." His voice shook, but he kept speaking, calling for every dreadnought, every cruiser, every fighter to form the Empire's largest fleet. His words echoed, trying to sound strong, but in his heart he knew the truth, and so did the councillors who kept their eyes down. They remembered the old wars, the brutality of humans when pushed, the fact that Deathworlders did not fight like others. They fought until nothing remained at that moment. The patrol commander's voice came over the channel, broken with static. "The human ship is scanning us. Our weapons cannot lock. Shields are failing without being hit. It is watching." Screams echoed behind his words, and then the feed went dark. Every councillor stared in silence. Some trembled. Some tried to stand tall, but the weight of fear pressed down on all. For the first time in centuries, the Empire felt powerless. And in that silence, the council chamber shook as alarms blared. Sensors lit red across the galaxy. Another tear in the void was opening. Wider than the first, brighter, more unstable. And the council's great screens filled with the image of the rift tearing open. The leaders stared with dread. If one human warship was impossible, what came next could shatter everything. Lights flickered, voices rose in panic, and the high speaker whispered words no one wanted to hear. "They are not alone." The void rip grows wider, shapes begin to emerge, and the council chamber falls into chaos as the galaxy realizes the first human warship was only the beginning. The void shook as the second rift tore open, light spilling out in violent waves. Alien ships scrambled back, their captains shouting orders no one could follow. The patrol fleet that had fired first now drifted in silence, their weapons useless, their shields straining, and their crews staring in horror at what was coming. From the glowing, tear-stepped shadows of machines, their outlines massive, cold and filled with purpose. But as the blinding light faded, only the first warship remained, its cannons fully charged, glowing with energy that made sensors scream warnings. The alien fleet opened comms again, voices shaking, begging the commander for orders. The commander, scales pale and voice trembling, gave one command: "Fire everything." Now, in an instant, the void became fire. Plasma bolts streaked across the dark. Torpedoes ripped forward like hungry beasts. Ion beams cut like knives through black space. The combined might of the patrol fleet slammed into the human warship. Explosions bloomed across its shields. Shockwaves shook nearby vessels. Alien crews screamed in victory before the truth showed. The warship did not move, did not break, did not even falter. Its shields shimmered like water, swallowing everything, feeding on the storm. And when the last missile flickered out, silence returned. The human vessel stood untouched, dark and still, but its cannons now glowed hotter, brighter, ready to answer. The first shot came without sound, a beam of energy brighter than a star. It cut across the void and erased a cruiser in a heartbeat. No explosion, no wreckage, only dust and silence left behind. The fleet panicked, ships turning wildly, trying to escape, but the warship's guns tracked them one by one. Each cannon strike tearing through formations, each missile erasing wings of fighters. Alien officers screamed orders, their crews running to stations. But their eyes were wide with terror, because nothing they did slowed the human warship's advance. Nothing changed the fact they were prey caught in the sight of a predator across the galaxy. The council chamber watched in horror, every screen showing live feeds. Ships turning into fireballs, fleets breaking apart. Admirals collapsing into their seats. Some councillors shouted for reinforcements, others for retreat, but no one had answers. The high speaker tried to sound calm. "It is only one ship. One ship cannot destroy an empire." Yet even as he spoke, the feed showed another alien dreadnought split apart with a single hit. The chamber fell silent, their faces pale as death. Because one ship was already doing what no Empire fleet had ever faced on the battlefield. Panic consumed the alien ranks. Fighters tried suicide runs, crashing themselves against the shields. But nothing pierced, nothing slowed, and the warship moved forward slowly, deliberately, as if savoring the destruction. Alien soldiers clutched weapons on their decks, knowing they would never fire them, knowing they would never see another dawn. Some prayed, others cursed, but all felt the same terror. Humanity was back, and they had come with vengeance wrapped in steel. The alien commander shouted for a retreat, his flagship turning hard, engines burning bright. But the human warship's cannons shifted. Locking onto him, his crew screamed warnings, alarms blared, and the commander felt the weight of history pressing down on him. He realized the truth too late. Humans had been silent for decades, not because they were weak, but because they had been waiting, building, hiding their strength until the moment came. And now, as his ship stood in the crosshairs, he whispered to himself, "We should have left them alone." In the council chamber, chaos exploded again. Leaders pounding tables, demanding to know how Earth had done this, demanding why no spies, no fleets, no allies had ever warned them. The answer was silence. No one had seen because humans had chosen to vanish. And in that silence they had become something new, something terrifying. The chamber's great screens flickered, and suddenly the human warship sent a second message. The voice deep, heavy, impossible to ignore. "We warned you once. Now you will learn." The chamber erupted in gasps. Some shouted to prepare every fleet in the Empire. Others screamed to open negotiations, but none could agree. And as their arguments filled the air, the live feed showed the warship charging a weapon unlike anything seen before. A cannon longer than a city, glowing with power that turned the void into fire. Alien fleets scattered, trying to run, trying to hide. But the cannon's light grew brighter, blinding every screen, making even the counselors cover their faces. And the last thing they saw was the human Leviathan aiming directly at the heart of the Empire fleet. The cannon fires, and the void explodes with light so powerful it blinds the galaxy, leaving everyone to wonder if the Empire's greatest fleet has just been erased in a single shot. Whispers spread like fire across the stars. Every station, every world, every marketplace now filled with the same image, the void glowing white as the human cannon fired. The Empire's proud fleet swallowed in a storm of light. When the glare finally faded, silence gripped the galaxy. Alien ships that once filled the dark were gone. Only wreckage floated, burning slowly. The human warship stood untouched in the center, its hull glowing faintly from the energy it had unleashed. And from every world came the same question: how could Earth, the weak world, the forgotten species, build such terror? The council chambers were drowned in arguments, their great screens still playing the destruction. Some shouted that the Empire must rally, that this was only one ship. Others whispered in fear that it was not alone, that Earth had hidden far more than anyone ever knew in the chamber's side halls. Intelligence officers brought desperate reports. Files long buried now opened. Strange disappearances in the outer rim. Human colonies once thought destroyed, now silent but not dead. Trade ships lost near Sol with no trace. Fragments of unknown technology sold in black markets. The signs had been there, but the Empire never cared. They believed Earth was broken, crushed, too weak to rise again. And in that arrogance they never asked the right questions. Now, as the files played across the chamber's hollow screens, the truth became clear. Humanity had never stopped. They had gone dark, they had hidden. They had built in shadows. Every insult, every ban, every blockade had been fuel for the fire. And now the fire burned across the void, across alien worlds. Fear twisted into panic. Soldiers demanded to know if Earth had fleets waiting. If more warships were coming, merchants whispered of ruined trade. Families spoke of fleeing to distant systems. Some voices even cheered. Those who hated the Empire's rule saw hope in the rise of humanity. They believed humans would break the chains of the Council and burn the Empire's power to ash. The galaxy had not seen a true challenger in centuries, and now, suddenly, the smallest world had become the greatest threat back in the void. The warship drifted silently, its guns cooling, its shields glowing soft, but its message lingered. This is only the beginning. Patrol beacons caught the sound, broadcasting it across every network, repeating until even children on distant colonies knew the words by heart. The Empire tried to silence the feeds, tried to cut transmissions, but fear is a storm that no walls can hold. The message became a warning and a promise. Humanity was not here to ask. They were here to decide. The High Speaker of the Council demanded answers, his hands shaking as he asked his admirals, "How many of these ships exist? What has Earth been building?" The admirals could not answer. Their senses only showed what was in front of them, one warship, but the silence of Sul was too deep. Too long. An Empire spy chief rose, his voice flat with dread. If they built one, they built more, and if they waited this long, they waited for a reason. The chamber fell into deeper silence, because they all knew the reason: revenge on the warship itself. Unseen cameras showed the silhouette of human soldiers standing inside, their armor black, their eyes hidden behind glowing visors, their movements sharp, disciplined, nothing like the scattered armies aliens remembered from centuries ago. These were soldiers who had trained for one purpose: to fight the galaxy, to reclaim their place. Their silence was worse than threats because it meant certainty. They did not need to speak, they only needed to act then. As the chamber argued, as alien worlds panicked, as fear spread without chains, the void rippled again. Not wide, not bright, but deep. Scanners shrieked with warnings. And from that tier came a sound that shook the galaxy. Engines, more than one. Dozens layered over dozens, signals overlapping. A fleet was moving through. The council chamber erupted. Leaders on their feet screaming at one another. Some demanding surrender before it was too late. Others demanding to strike at Sol before the humans poured out. But their voices were drowned by the feed as shapes appeared. Massive hulls pushing through the dark, each one bearing the same mark, the same silent symbol of Earth in the shadows of the rift. Outlines became clear. Warships, more than the chamber could count. Their guns glowing, their engines roaring. The feed zoomed closer, showing steel so black it ate the light. Giant ships that dwarfed cruisers, smaller escort vessels flanking them like predators in a pack. And at the center, another warship even larger than the first. Its surface bristling with weapons, its engines burning like a second sun. Silence spread through the chamber, through the Empire, through the galaxy. As the truth became undeniable, humanity had not returned with one ship. They had returned with a fleet, the first human fleet in centuries, steps into the galaxy, their shadows covering the void. And the Empire realizes too late that the war they feared has already begun. The void burned with light as the new fleet emerged. Alien eyes across the galaxy widened in horror as ship after ship stepped through the rift. The first warship had been enough to terrify the Empire, but now dozens filled the darkness, their engines glowing like dying stars. Their hulls sharp and black as blades, every one of them armed with weapons larger than alien cruisers. Smaller escort craft swarmed around them like predators, protecting their alpha. Together they moved in perfect silence. No signals, no wasted motion, only the steady, terrifying presence of a force that should not exist. The alien admirals watching from the council chamber clutched their chairs, their scales and fur slick with cold sweat because they knew what this meant. Earth had not just built a weapon, they had built a fleet. A Terran fleet. The Empire scrambled every available ship. Dreadnoughts, carriers, strike wings, pulled from every sector. The largest armada in centuries was assembled. Tens of thousands of vessels lined up in the void. Stretching so far, sensors could barely capture them all. Propaganda broadcasts claimed victory was certain, that numbers would crush the humans, that no fleet could stand against the Empire's might. But the soldiers aboard those alien ships whispered the truth. They had seen the first warship survive impossible fire. They had seen it erase fleets with single strikes, and now there were many more. Numbers felt meaningless when the enemy had already shown they were beyond reason. The council chamber shook with arguments. Voices cracked as leaders shouted over one another. Some demanded diplomacy, to reach out, to beg for peace. Others roared for war, claiming surrender would end the Empire forever. The high speaker tried to calm them, his words drowned out by the feeds showing the Terran fleet moving into formation. Perfect lines, sharp movements, the discipline of predators. The galaxy had long mocked humans as wild, undisciplined, chaotic. But this was no chaos, this was precision. And it terrified them more than rage ever could in the void. Alien fleets moved into walls of steel. Dreadnoughts in front, carriers behind, fighters swarming in clouds of light. Their formations so massive entire planets could have been hidden behind them. Yet the humans did not rush. They advanced slowly, their warships glowing, their cannons hot, like predators closing in on prey. The silence between the fleets was unbearable, every second stretched into eternity. Soldiers clutched their weapons, pilots gripped their controls. Even commanders felt their throats dry as they stared at the advancing wall of Terran steel. One alien soldier whispered words no one wanted to admit. They look like they have done this before. The human flagship stood at the center, its size dwarfing even the Empire's dreadnoughts, its engines glowing like suns, its surface covered in weapons no one recognized, cannons, launch bays, strange glowing orbs that pulsed with energy beyond any alien science. Suddenly, with no warning, the comms cracked with sound. The same deep human voice echoed across every channel. "The Terran fleet has returned." Silence followed. Not a threat, not a demand, just a statement. And yet it felt heavier than 1,000 war declarations. Because it meant the humans were no longer shadows, they were here. They were real. And they had chosen their moment. The alien admirals shouted orders. Shields raised, fighters launched, weapons charged. The void filled with the hum of thousands of ships ready for war. But in their hearts, every crew member felt the same dread. Because the humans had spoken with certainty, they had not asked, they had declared. And now all that was left was to see what that meant. On alien worlds, citizens stared at the feeds in silence. Some cheered, hoping the Empire's grip would finally break. Others wept, fearing humanity's wrath, and in hidden corners, smugglers and rebels whispered that the galaxy had just changed forever. The Empire's fleet spread wide, preparing to surround the humans, massive arcs of steel curving across the void. The council chamber filled with cheers as they watched their numbers stretch like a net. But then the human fleet shifted, moving with precision, their ships sliding into place, their formation not breaking but sharpening. Like a blade being drawn, alien sensors screamed warnings. Tracking patterns that did not make sense, tactics unseen before. And for the first time, the admirals realized the humans were not reacting. They were controlling. The battle had not begun, but the humans were already winning it back in the chamber. The high speaker slammed his hands on the table, his voice rising. "We must strike first. Overwhelm them before they act," his words filled with desperation. But before a vote could be cast, the feed from the front lines showed the human fleet stopping. Weapons glowing brighter, shields pulsing like living things, engines burning like fire, and then the flagship's forward cannons shifted, glowing with energy that blinded every sensor, every screen, every eye. The humans were about to speak again, not with words, but with fire. The Terran flagship powers its weapons, the void glowing like the birth of a star. While the Empire's largest fleet in history braces for the storm, they know they cannot survive. The void lit up as the first shot fired, not from the Empire, but from humanity. The Terran flagship unleashed a beam of energy so bright it cut through the dark like the birth of a star. It tore across the Empire's forward lines, vaporizing cruisers and ripping dreadnoughts in half. Explosions rippled through the alien ranks. Screams echoed through their comms. And before the shock even settled, the rest of the Terran fleet joined in. Their cannons thundered, their missiles streaked forward, their weapons moved with perfect precision, striking weak points, tearing apart formations. The Empire's armada shook as chaos consumed it. Alien admirals screamed for order. Fighters swarmed like insects, thousands pouring out to swarm the human ships. Their beams cut across the void. Their torpedoes burned trails of light. But every strike slammed uselessly against human shields. The Terran warships moved like predators, their black hulls shimmering with glowing blue energy, their guns never missing, every volley destroying fleets in seconds. Dreadnoughts that had ruled the stars for centuries cracked open like toys. Carriers turned to burning wreckage, whole wings of fighters erased before they could even close range. Alien soldiers inside their ships cried out in disbelief. They are unstoppable. They are monsters. The Empire's largest dreadnought moved forward, a behemoth nearly the size of a moon. Its cannons glowing with the power of a dying star. It fired in rage. The beam crossing the void and striking the Terran flagship, shockwaves rippled through space, and alien fleets cheered for a moment as the flagship was swallowed in light. But when the glare cleared, the human ship still stood, shields burning brighter, stronger, as if it had absorbed the strike, and then its response came. A single blast from its forward cannon, piercing the Empire dreadnought straight through. The massive vessel split apart in silence. Its wreckage drifting lifeless into the dark, alien cheers turned to screams. Hope turned to ashes. Inside the council chamber, leaders watched in stunned silence. Their mouths dry, their bodies trembling. They had believed numbers would protect them, that sheer force would crush Earth's rebellion, but the feeds told the truth. Thousands of alien ships burning, drifting, falling silent, while the Terran fleet moved without loss. Their precision flawless, their fire unstoppable. Some councillors shouted to order a retreat. Others screamed to keep fighting, but their voices carried no strength. Because in their eyes was only terror. They knew they had awakened something they could never put back to sleep on the battlefield. Alien fleets tried new tactics, breaking apart, circling, swarming the human warships in waves, but the Terran vessels moved with brutal discipline. Their formations tightening, their escorts intercepting every strike, their cannons slicing through the swarms. One alien captain whispered over comms, "They fight like they have already won," his voice shaking as his ship was torn apart by a missile that struck with the precision of a blade. Another fleet tried to ram the flagship, engines burning hot, but the humans shifted aside with ease, letting their escorts shred the attackers before they could close. Not a single human hull bore a scratch. Every alien soldier watching felt the same horror. Humans had not just built weapons, they had mastered war itself. They had studied every Empire tactic, every strategy, and built ships designed to break them all. This was not a battle, it was a lesson, a reminder of what Death Worlders were, predators who never forgot, who never forgave, and who never lost when survival was on the line. The void burned for hours. The galaxy watching through shaky feeds, whole sectors filled with wreckage. The Empire's largest fleet scattered like dust, their proud ships now twisted corpses floating in silence. While the Terran fleet advanced step by step, their guns never slowing, their shields never breaking, alien commanders began ordering retreats, abandoning positions, their fleets scattering to save themselves. But no retreat could hide from human guns. Missiles chased them down. Beams cut across the void. Warships fell in waves. The Empire was crumbling before every eye in the galaxy back in the council chamber. The High Speaker collapsed into his chair, his eyes hollow, his voice barely a whisper. If this is only one fleet, if they have more. His words trailed off, the chamber filled with silence. Every leader realizing the truth they had refused to face. Humanity had not been silent because it was weak. It had been silent because it was preparing. And now, in this clash, the Empire was learning what that silence had cost them. Then, just as the battle seemed decided, just as the Empire's fleet fell into full retreat, sensors screamed across every alien ship. A new energy surge was detected, far larger than before. The void rippled again, darker, heavier, and from the depths came movement, something vast pushing through. Larger than the Terran flagship, larger than any ship ever seen. Shadows stretched across the stars. Alien admirals froze as their screens lit with impossible readings. Councillors screamed in panic, and across the galaxy one word spread like fire. Humanity had built something beyond warships, something that dwarfed even dreadnoughts from the rift. A massive silhouette begins to emerge, a human Leviathan-class vessel, its engines shaking the void itself, promising a storm the Empire cannot survive. The void trembled as the rift widened. Light spilling in all directions, alien fleets froze. Their ships drifting in broken formations, soldiers staring in silence as a shape emerged from the darkness. At first, it looked like a shadow of a world, too large, too wide, too endless to be a vessel. But then, the glow of its engines cut through the dark, each one burning like a newborn sun, and the truth became clear. Humanity had built something beyond ships. They had built a Leviathan, a warship so massive it dwarfed the Terran flagship, so vast that even dreadnoughts looked like insects beside it. Its hull stretched for kilometers, bristling with weapons, hundreds of cannons glowing red, missile silos as tall as towers, and strange glowing orbs pulsing with energy no alien science could explain. The Empire's admirals screamed in disbelief, their voices breaking as their sensors filled with impossible readings. Energy levels higher than planets, shields thick enough to survive a star's death, weapons designed to erase entire fleets in one strike. An admiral cried out, "It is not a warship. It is a world killer." His words echoed across the comms, and fear took hold of every soldier listening. The council chamber filled with gasps, leaders standing from their seats, their faces drained of blood as they stared at the giant on the screen. One whispered what no one wanted to say: they built a god of war. The Leviathan moved slowly, each step forward shaking the void itself, its surface alive with glowing lights. The smaller Terran ships shifting into formation around it like wolves protecting their alpha. Together they advanced toward the broken Empire fleet. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy understood the meaning of true fear. The humans had not just returned, they had returned with a force no one could resist. Alien soldiers aboard their ships dropped their weapons. Staring at the sight, some prayed to their gods. Others whispered that the end had come, and across the Empire's systems riots broke out. Civilians flooding the streets in panic, knowing the war was already lost. Then the Leviathan spoke, its voice not from a commander, not from a human face, but from the ship itself, a deep, thunderous tone that rolled across the comms. Reaching every ear, "We are humanity, we are the children of Earth, and we have not forgotten." The words froze the council chamber, froze the fleets, froze the galaxy, because it was not a negotiation. It was not a threat, it was judgment. The voice continued, "You exiled us, you mocked us, you starved us, and now you will face what you created." Silence followed, heavy and unbreakable. The galaxy holding its breath for what came next. The Empire's fleets, scattered and broken, tried to regroup, their admirals screaming for one last stand. Dreadnoughts moving into position, carriers launching their last fighters. Beams of energy fired into the Leviathan's shields. Explosions lit the void, but nothing moved the great vessel. Nothing pierced its armor. Its shields glowed brighter, stronger, as if feeding on the very attacks thrown against it. And then it answered, dozens of cannons unleashed at once. Beams slicing through entire lines of ships, fleets burning in seconds, whole formations erased with a single strike. Screams filled the comms as alien crews were torn apart before they could even fight back. This was not a battle. This was a massacre inside the council chamber. Panic turned to despair. Leaders shouted, some demanding surrender, others screaming to continue. But their words sounded hollow against the truth on the screens. Their fleets were gone, their armies broken, their empire bleeding in the void. One elder counselor whispered through tears, "This is the end of the empire." But even as despair filled the chamber, a darker thought spread. If the humans could do this to the empire, what would they do to the rest of the galaxy? Who could be safe when humanity held such power? The Leviathan powered its main cannon, a massive weapon running the length of the ship. Glowing brighter than anything seen before, energy rippled through space, making sensors collapse, making ships shudder. The cannon turned slowly, locking onto the Empire's homeworld, its capital, the beating heart of its rule. Alien leaders screamed in terror, counselors begging for mercy, civilians crying as they watched the feeds, and in the silence that followed, The galaxy realized it was no longer watching a war. It was watching judgment, the Leviathan's massive cannon locks onto the Empire's homeworld. Its glow blinding, its power building, and the galaxy waits in terror. Wondering if Earth will erase a world to send its final message, the galaxy fell silent as the Leviathan's main cannon glowed brighter, its energy building like a star ready to explode. Every alien ship still alive froze in place, their crews staring at the beam that now pointed directly at the Empire's homeworld. The capital planet, the jewel of their rule. Billions of aliens lived there, and every one of them looked up at the sky with terror in their hearts. The feeds from the battlefield streamed across the Empire's networks. Whole cities gathered in silence, children clutching their parents, leaders trembling in council chambers. The question on every mind was the same. Would humanity erase them with one strike? Would Earth answer centuries of exile with fire? The High Speaker of the Council fell to his knees, his voice broken. "We cannot stop them. We cannot fight them. We can only beg." His words echoed hollow in the chamber. Other leaders shouted to surrender, to send messages of peace, but before they could, the Leviathan spoke again, its voice deep, thundering, shaking every word. "You thought we were weak. You thought we were broken. You thought we would vanish. But humanity does not vanish. Humanity endures. Humanity remembers." The words spread across the galaxy, carried into every comm, every screen, every ear. There was no place. The voice did not reach. Alien soldiers aboard their ships lowered their weapons, some falling to their knees, some covering their faces in despair. Civilians across the Empire wept, believing their world was about to burn, but the cannon did not fire. Instead, the Leviathan's glow held steady, humming with endless power. Then dimmed slightly, its voice returning. Sharper this time. "We could end you. We could turn your world to ash, but we will not. Not today." The words stunned the chamber, stunned the fleets, stunned the galaxy itself. Silence followed, broken only by gasps of relief and whispers of disbelief. The human voice continued. "You exiled us, you starved us, you mocked us, and yet we have returned stronger than you ever imagined. We could destroy you, but instead we will do worse. We will take away your certainty. We will take away your illusion of power. We will show the galaxy that your empire is nothing before humanity." The words cut deeper than weapons. Because they were true, the Empire's fleets were gone, their armies shattered, their pride broken, and the proof floated in the void, wreckage burning around the Leviathan. An empire destroyed by one fleet inside the council chamber. Leaders sat in silence, their heads bowed. Some cried openly, others stared blankly at the screen. No one spoke because no one could. The truth was too heavy. Earth now decided their fate. Not them, not the Council, not the Empire, but humanity. The Leviathan dimmed its cannon fully. The threat gone, but the terror still burning. Then the voice spoke one last time. "This is your only warning. The next time you move against Earth, the next time you threaten humanity, there will be no mercy. Remember this day, for it is the day you learned what humans truly are." The feeds went black. The human fleet turned slowly, deliberately, engines blazing like suns. They did not chase, they did not destroy further, they simply left, drifting back into the void, their rift opening again, swallowing them in darkness. The Leviathan vanished last, its massive silhouette fading into the rip until only silence remained. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for another strike, waiting for more ships. But nothing came, only the silence of space and the wreckage of the Empire's greatest fleet floating lifeless in the dark on alien worlds. Civilians fell to their knees, whispers spreading that the humans had spared them. Some called it mercy, others called it cruelty, because the fear of humanity now hung heavier than death. Rebels cheered in hidden corners, smugglers smiled. Oppressed systems whispered of rebellion, all because humanity had shown the Empire could bleed, and once fear spreads, it never goes away. The council chamber sat in silence, the High Speaker whispering broken words. "We thought we ruled the stars. But now the stars belonged to them. Back on Earth, unseen by alien eyes, massive shipyards glowed, hidden deep in the shadows of space. More fleets were being built, more leviathans waiting for their turn, soldiers trained in silence, weapons tested in secret. Humanity had not unleashed everything. They had only shown a fraction. The Empire had been given mercy, but the message was clear. Earth would never kneel again, and if the galaxy dared to forget, humanity would remind them. The verdict had been given. The Council could only obey. Final scene. Alien leaders sit in silence, their faces pale, while across the stars, humans in black armor stand tall inside their ships, Earth's fleets glowing in the void. The future of the galaxy now belonging to humanity. The predators who had returned from exile, stronger than anyone could imagine.